More cool things and fun people that we're finding on the show floor. It's a delight to chat with our next guest who's been with us on Into Tomorrow before, Intel's Futurist. Yeah, this guy is a lot of fun. Of course, it's Brian David Johnson. Thanks again for joining us Into Tomorrow, author, futurist. You have a lot of very cool things going on. Welcome back Into Tomorrow.
Dave, it's great to be back. Great to be back.
And what are you showing here at IDF? You're working with a bunch of companies, but some really fun things going on.
So we've got the 21st Century Robot Project, Dave. And so the 21st Century Robot Project is an open source 3D printable robot. So this is Jimmy. Jimmy's based on Intel Edison. If you see inside of there, you have the Intel Edison chip put on a carrier board. That carrier board is connected to a subcontroller, and those subcontrollers are connected to all the motors. So you can actually buy a kit and put this together, and then you can go online and you can download the design files.
And you can design any type of robot you want. Doesn't have to look like Jimmy.
Not at all. And we actually encourage people. We say every robot has a name because every robot is an individual because it was made by an individual. So that's the motto for 21st Century Robots. So you can put together the endoskeleton, you can make your own exoskeleton, put it together, and because of the Wi-Fi and Bluetooth on Intel Edison, it'll actually talk to your laptop, your smartphone, or your tablet, and you can start to download applications. So you don't have to have a PhD or know how to do C++, you can just download apps because every robot not only has a name, but it should be personalized. It should be as personalizable as your smartphone.
And what are the kinds of things that these robots could do for us, especially as consumers? I mean, they're fun to watch, they're fun to play with, and entertain guests, have bragging rights, be the first one on your block, but then are there practical uses at this point?
Well, what we normally say to people, Dave, is the robot can do whatever you want it to do. It's just like a smartphone. So it should be as individualized as your smartphone. Your smartphone is much more different than my smartphone. And so that's what we put to people is we don't know. We've got some ideas. We've got some fun Twitter apps. We've got some fun sort of medication reminder apps, sort of alarm clock apps. Imagine Jimmy dances the tango when he wakes you up in the morning.
I'm imagining Jimmy bringing me a beer.
Exactly. He can do whatever you want him to do, whenever you program it to do. And that's really our idea. Is we want to partner with a bunch of different folks. So we have Intel, we have Trosson Robotics, we have a lot of developers who are coming together and really making an ecosystem of people to get as many people imagining, designing, and building robots as possible.
Love it. And of course, Brian, you talked about personalizing it. So that just kind of adds that extra level of creativity so that it is your robot and it becomes sort of an individual. Scary thought?
So as we look into tomorrow, what we see is a world where robots are as common as the internet or your smartphone. So that you could have a whole generation of kids, just like today, have a whole bunch of generation of kids that have never known a time where there wasn't the internet. Now you could have a generation of kids who have never known a time when you couldn't imagine, design, build, and program a robot. Just imagine what they'll come up with. That's what we're excited about.
I mean, we're talking about the most creative science projects at the very start and then on from there.
That's the creativity we want to lock into. We want to start in people's imaginations and then give them all the tools that they need to be able to make robots.
As an Intel futurist, this is the kind of project that I know you take to heart, but it has got to be an awesome job anyway, just to be able to say, look at what we can do, and we haven't even thought of all the things we can do yet.
Well, I feel very humbled. I mean, working for a company like Intel, coming to a place like the Intel Developer Forum, you see all this amazing creativity, and we really do have the ability to touch people's lives and make their lives better, and that's really what we want to do with the 21st Century Robot Project, is get these robots into the hands of kids and see what they'll come up with, because they really will do amazing things.
We don't even have to kind of push them with ideas. It's like, you want a robot? What would you do with it? And let them take off.
Oh, you watch their eyes light up. The moment I come to them and say, you can design your own robot, your robot can do whatever you want it to do, they already start telling me all different things that they want it to do. They want the robot to sing with them, they want the robot to dance, they want the robot to tell jokes. We even got a robot here that can tell some jokes.
Really? So, I mean, it's endless what you can do.
That's the idea.
I love it. Now, when you talk about the ability to customize it, there are various applications that you can download and then pick something you like and then take it from there, because of course the key here is Intel's Edison allowing it to communicate with all of our devices. So once that happens, make it look like anything you want, and then start that creativity wheel going.
Yeah, it's part of a larger device ecosystem. If you think all the way from like the internet and cloud and even supercomputing down through your tablet, your 2-in-1, your smartphone, and down to somebody like Jimmy with the 21st Century Robot and Intel Edison, they're all connected. They're all connected together, and it's really all of those different devices together working together to fit into your life. But now, with somebody like Jimmy, you've now got an application that can come find you when something really cool happens.
Loving it. And you don't, maybe even Jimmy fell in the well. It's the new Lassie, right? I mean, do you even see ultimately those kinds of things?
Well, I think it's up to people's imagination. Ultimately, Jimmy is a character, and we want everybody to name their robot. Again, every robot has a name. So we want people to really personalize it. And I think once you tap into people's imagination, there's no telling what they'll come up with.
And the fact that it can talk back to you, hopefully very nicely, it just adds that other layer of, again, creativity, but excitement too.
It's a different level of computing. Right now we live in a time of command and control. You ask your computer for something, it gives it to you. But when you have the ability to talk to it and live with it and have Jimmy in your living room, and when Jimmy hears something really interesting, he comes and finds you, it becomes much more like a relationship. It becomes much more humanized, and I think much more interesting.
And that, of course, Brian, means that Jimmy and his brothers and sisters and cousins have to be able to become intuitive and speak the way we would speak.
Exactly.
Or at least understand it.
And that's why this platform becomes so important, is you have to have enough computational power to be able to have them hear you, know you, and even from a security standpoint, sort of know who you are. So I think a lot of it is sort of riding on that computational power.
And funny that you mentioned security, because one of the thoughts was just that. I mean, keeping an eye on my business, keeping an eye on my warehouse or something. It might be very business-oriented, less creative, but does a heck of a job.
That's why we want to get it out there. We want to get into as many people's hands, entrepreneurs, young folks, everybody.
And we don't have to pay them too much. We just have to build them.
Exactly.
Love it. Brian, you're always a pleasure to have you on the show. I would have continued to chat with you, but I know you're due back on stage very shortly.
Got to go do a demo real quick.
Yes, indeed. And thank you, as always, very much for joining us Into Tomorrow.
Dave, it's great seeing you again.
Terrific. Well, there you go. You have it from Intel's Futurist himself. There's a lot of excitement coming down the way, and of course, Intel Edison helps make these kinds of things very possible. Check out all about the robots, and you can do that at Intel.com. We'll link you to all kinds of cool things from IDF when you visit us at IntoTomorrow.com. I'm Dave Graveline. We're back with more from San Francisco and IDF on Into Tomorrow on the Advanced Media Network.